There was always peace and comfort in Catherine's garden. She had grown used to thinking of this little corner as her refuge from the hustle and monotony of everyday life. But one day, when a stranger's shadow appeared among the newly planted flowers, not only new plants began to bloom in her world, but also dangerous feelings. But before you get comfortable, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is for you. I'm really curious to see who has joined us. Now, settle in and get comfortable. We are about to begin. Catherine Lawson stood at the tall glass doors of her suburban house, the morning sun warming her bare arms. She had always cared about her appearance. Today was no different. Her silky chestnut hair fell in loose waves past her shoulders, catching golden highlights in the light. She wore a light blue sundress that hugged her athletic figure, the fabric caressing the curve of her hips and waist, dipping gently over her third-size breasts. Underneath, her lingerie was simple, pale pink lace, soft and delicate, chosen more for how it felt than for anyone else to see. She sipped her coffee, surveying the backyard. The garden was wild, the roses untrimmed, and patches of earth lay bare where grass refused to grow. It was not ugly, but it was tired, much like Catherine's routine. Her husband was often away for work, and her days blurred together in a sequence of emails, house chores, and brief, polite chats with the neighbors. Today would be different. Today, the new gardener would arrive. She heard the gate click and turned. The man who stepped through was younger than she had expected. Maybe 30, maybe a little older. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with strong forearms, visible beneath the rolled sleeves of his white t-shirt. His dark hair was tousled, his skin sun-bronzed, his eyes the color of good coffee. Faded jeans clung to his legs, and worn leather gloves dangled from one hand. "Good morning, Mrs. Lawson," he greeted her, flashing an easy, confident smile. His voice was deep, pleasant. "I'm Mark Harris, from Greenview Landscaping." Catherine felt a flutter in her stomach that she hadn't expected. "Good morning, Mark. Thank you for coming." As Mark moved around the garden, examining soil and hedges, Catherine found herself watching the way his shirt tightened across his back, the curve of muscle beneath the cotton. There was nothing improper, but something in his presence unsettled the quiet order of her days. She offered him water, and as he took the glass, their fingers brushed. It was the lightest touch, but it lingered in her thoughts. Later, as she watered her indoor plants by the kitchen window, she saw Mark bending to dig up a stubborn root, his body strong and sure in the morning light. Her friend Ashley dropped by in the afternoon, all sunshine and energy. Ashley was a striking contrast, petite, with pale blonde hair cut to her chin, her body slim, her second-sized breasts outlined beneath a lemon-yellow tank top and denim shorts. She grinned when Catherine mentioned the new gardener. "So is he cute?" Ashley teased, perching on the kitchen counter. Her blue eyes sparkled mischievously. Catherine hesitated, then laughed, feeling a thrill. "He's unexpected. And yes, very." Ashley winked. "Well, you deserve a little excitement. Just enjoy it. You're allowed to look, you know." When Ashley left, Catherine returned to the patio. Mark was finishing for the day, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. He smiled at her, that same confident, open smile, and she felt a heat rise in her cheeks. That night, as Catherine lay in bed, she closed her eyes and let her thoughts drift. She pictured Mark's hands, strong, capable, a bit rough. She imagined the warmth of his skin near hers, the way his eyes might look at her, lingering just a little too long. In her mind, the distance between them closed. She could almost feel his breath on her neck, his hands sliding down her waist, the cotton of her dress slipping from her shoulders. Her breath caught, and her body tingled, her mind awash with the sweet ache of longing and anticipation. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling her heart beating faster, her body responding to fantasies she had not allowed herself in years. She was surprised by her own boldness and by how alive she suddenly felt. The days that followed brought more small moments. Mark complimented her roses, and when their hands touched again, passing her a pair of gardening shears, retrieving a fallen glove, it was as if tiny sparks jumped between their skin. One evening, as the sky blushed pink, Catherine found herself watching Mark from the window, a small, secret smile on her lips. For the first time in a long while, her heart raced, not from anxiety or obligation, but from the delicious thrill of possibility. The garden was changing, and so, it seemed, was Catherine. She did not know what would grow here, but for the first time in years, she was looking forward to finding out. The next week, the air in the Lawson household felt more electric, as if every object and ray of sunlight carried a subtle secret. Catherine awoke early each morning, feeling a growing anticipation as she chose her clothes. Today, a soft cream blouse, lightly fitted at the waist, and a pale skirt that swirled just above her knees. Her hair, loose and fragrant, framed her face. Her lingerie was delicate white cotton laced along the edges, comfortable yet undeniably feminine. She spent more time than usual selecting just the right perfume, a whisper of vanilla and jasmine. Each day, Mark arrived punctually, always with a new project or suggestion for the garden. He would kneel beside her to show a new flower, his hands brushing the earth with gentle authority. Sometimes, when their eyes met, a moment of silence would stretch between them, filled with unspoken questions and possibilities. One afternoon, Catherine invited Mark for tea under the old magnolia tree, its blossoms trembling in the breeze. He looked surprised, but pleased. They sat at a small round table set with chimed cups, the sun dappling through the leaves onto their faces. Mark accepted his tea, his fingers steady, but his gaze intent. "You have a beautiful garden and a beautiful home," he said quietly. "I can see how much care you put into everything here." Catherine felt a flutter at his words. "Thank you, Mark. It's nice to have someone notice." Her voice was soft, edged with something she had not heard in herself for a long time. A gentle wind lifted a strand of hair from her shoulder, and Mark reached out, tucking it behind her ear. His fingertips grazed her skin, and Catherine shivered, the touch lingering like a secret. Their knees touched under the table, neither of them moving away. Catherine's breath grew shallow. For a suspended moment, the world shrank to the small distance between their faces. She could smell his cologne, earthy and masculine, could almost feel the heat radiating from his skin. She wanted so much to close the gap, but she hesitated, caught between longing and uncertainty. They were interrupted by a sudden sound from the fence. Catherine glanced up to see her neighbor, Mrs. Peters, standing at the property line, pretending to adjust her hat, but obviously watching. Catherine's cheeks flushed. Mark seemed unfazed, only smiling politely. Later, Catherine retreated inside, her thoughts swirling. Was she imagining the way Mark looked at her? Or was there something real in his gaze? Was it foolish to risk even a flirtation with neighbors and friends so close? Ashley called that evening, her voice bubbling with excitement. "So what's happening with the handsome gardener?" she teased. Catherine laughed, but her voice trembled as she tried to explain the day's events. The touch, the unspoken words, the sensation of being seen. Ashley grew suddenly serious. "Just be careful, Kath. Sometimes people want more than just a garden to tend to." There was a hint of warning in her tone. The following day, Catherine noticed something strange. As Mark worked, he glanced often toward the house, as if searching for something. Once, he seemed about to speak, but stopped himself, biting his lip. When she asked about his work, he answered with his usual politeness, but there was a distance in his eyes she had not noticed before. That night, lying in bed in her soft camisole and matching lace panties, Catherine replayed the day in her mind. She remembered the warmth of Mark's touch, the hunger in his eyes, the sensation of his knee against hers. Her hands traced her own body, slowly, almost absently, as she tried to recapture the feeling. She imagined Mark's hands replacing hers, strong, deliberate, gentle, yet commanding. She pictured him leaning over her, his breath hot on her neck, his lips brushing her skin with careful reverence. Her pulse raced, her skin tingling in anticipation, her body straining for more. Her fantasy was interrupted by a noise outside, a soft thud, followed by the scrape of footsteps. Catherine froze, her senses heightened. Moving to the window, she peeked through the curtains. In the dim light, she caught a glimpse of someone near the garden shed. For a moment, she thought it might be Mark, but the figure slipped away into the shadows before she could be sure. The next morning, she mentioned the disturbance to Mark, hoping for reassurance. He looked uneasy. "It was probably just an animal," he said. But Catherine could not shake the feeling that something was being left unsaid. Later, Ashley visited for coffee. Her outfit, a mint green crop top and high-waisted white shorts, drew appreciative glances from a passing delivery boy. Ashley noticed Catherine's distracted mood. "Is everything all right?" she asked, concern in her blue eyes. Catherine hesitated. I feel like I'm being watched. Like there's more going on than I understand." Ashley squeezed her hand. "Sometimes you have to trust your instincts, Kath. About men. About your own heart. But do not let curiosity blind you to what is really happening." That evening, as dusk settled, Catherine found herself drawn to the garden. She wandered among the newly planted flowers, trailing her fingers along velvet petals, her mind heavy with questions. Mark watched her from a distance, his gaze unreadable. There was tension in the air, as if the garden itself was holding its breath. When Mark passed close by, his arm brushed hers. Catherine felt a rush of heat, electric, exhilarating. Their hands met, fingers intertwining briefly, sending shivers up her spine. For a heartbeat, it seemed the world narrowed to that touch, and Catherine knew that something had changed between them. Desire mingled with fear, and beneath it all, a pulse of wild anticipation. The day ended, but the questions lingered. Catherine's safe, predictable life had shifted. Intrigue had taken root in her garden and in her heart. The morning after the uneasy night, Catherine awoke unsettled. Sunlight streamed through her curtains, painting gold across her sheets, but her mind remained cloudy with questions. She took special care getting ready. Her hair brushed to a silky sheen, her lips glossed, her white fitted blouse buttoned to the right line between propriety and allure, and a pale lavender skirt flowing softly against her legs. Beneath her clothes, her matching lilac lace lingerie hugged her curves. She felt its whisper all day, a secret she carried close. She went outside, searching the garden for clues to last night's disturbance. By the old apple tree, she saw muddy footprints, far larger than her own. Someone really had been there. Her pulse fluttered, half with anxiety, half with the thrill of mystery. Mark arrived not long after, carrying fresh bags of soil and new saplings. He was more reserved today, quieter, but his eyes often flickered to Catherine, lingering longer than before. His dark jeans were dusted with earth, his arms bare under the sun, the muscles flexing with every movement. For a moment, she watched him work, entranced by the strength in his frame and the easy grace of his actions. When Mark took a break, Catherine brought out lemonade. "Did you notice anything strange here last night?" she asked, keeping her tone casual. Mark's jaw tightened. "Maybe," he admitted, voice low. "I thought I saw someone by the fence, but it was late, and I was just leaving." A shiver passed through Catherine. She nodded, not wanting to seem too rattled. The garden, once her safe haven, now felt thick with secrets. As clouds gathered overhead, Mark suggested moving some tools to the shed before the rain. Catherine followed, clutching a basket of gloves and seed packets. The wind picked up, bending the flowers, making the trees groan and sway. Then the first drops fell, cool, fat, insistent. They dashed to the shed together, laughing breathlessly. Inside, it was cramped, the scent of wood and earth filling the small space. Catherine wiped rain from her cheeks, her blouse clinging to her skin, turning almost translucent. Mark's eyes darkened as he looked at her, and she felt a wild spark ignite in her chest. Without words, Mark stepped closer. His hands, rough from work, framed her face, his thumbs brushing rain from her cheeks. Catherine's breath caught as he leaned in, their lips meeting softly, hesitantly at first, then deeper, hungrier. She felt the firm press of his body against hers, his arms around her waist, their damp clothes sticking to skin. Her hands slid up his chest, feeling the steady thud of his heart. Mark's mouth traveled along her jaw, gentle and adoring, before returning to her lips. The world narrowed to the heat between them. the safe cocoon of the shed, and the pounding of the rain on the roof. For a moment, she let herself fall into him completely, her heart open and wild. Suddenly, a loud voice broke through the haze, a woman's sharp call from outside. They froze, breathless, Mrs. Peters peering in through the shed window, her umbrella held high, her face a mask of shock. "Catherine, are you in there?" the neighbor demanded, her voice slicing through the intimacy. Catherine stumbled back, cheeks aflame, as Mark quickly composed himself. She rushed to the door. "Yes, Mrs. Peters. I was just helping Mark with the tools," she managed. Struggling to sound casual, Mrs. Peters eyed them both suspiciously before retreating under her umbrella, shaking her head. After the neighbor left, Catherine and Mark shared a tense silence. What had seemed like a magical escape now felt dangerous. Had Mrs. Peters seen more than she let on? As the rain subsided, Mark grew distant again, collecting his things in silence. Catherine felt the sting of embarrassment and the ache of unfinished desire. Was this what she wanted? The risk, the uncertainty. That evening, as Catherine prepared dinner, there was a knock at the door. She opened it to find Mrs. Peters on her porch holding a small box. "I found this by the fence," the neighbor said coolly, handing it over. Inside was a simple gold bracelet, one Catherine hadn't seen before. Confused, she thanked Mrs. Peters, who only raised an eyebrow and left. Later, Ashley called, her voice low and urgent. "Catherine, something strange happened. My friend Jane told me Mark was seen in someone's yard at night. Mrs. Peters' place. She claims something went missing. A garden ornament. Is that true?" Catherine's heart pounded. I do not know. Mark never said anything about it." "Well, people are talking. Just be careful," Ashley warned. Catherine wandered out into her garden at dusk, her thoughts swirling. She knelt in the damp grass, the scent of rain and earth all around. The world felt different now, as if the veil of safety had been pulled away. In her mind, she replayed the moment in the shed, the taste of Mark's lips, the way his hands made her feel wanted and alive. Her body ached for him still, even as her mind filled with worry. Was he who he claimed to be? What else was he hiding? The garden, once so familiar, now shimmered with mystery and doubt. The next morning, Mark did not show up for work. Catherine waited, staring out at the half-finished flower beds, feeling both betrayed and exposed. Had she been foolish to trust him, to trust herself? The shock of the previous day hung over her like a storm cloud, heavy with questions that had no easy answers. The garden was no longer just a place of beauty. It was a stage for secrets, watched by more eyes than she realized, and every path led deeper into uncertainty. For the first time, Catherine wondered if she truly wanted to know what would bloom next. Days passed in slow motion, each morning heavy with the weight of Mark's absence. Catherine found herself listening for the sound of his truck, longing for the scrape of his boots across the stones. Yet every day, the garden remained eerily silent. The half-finished beds seemed frozen in time, colors duller, the air thicker. She tried to fill her days with routines, emails, errands, brief conversations with neighbors. But the garden pulled her back every time. The mysterious bracelet Mrs. Peters had found still sat on her dresser, catching the morning sun. Catherine turned it over in her fingers, wondering whose it was, what it meant, and how it had come to rest by her fence. One afternoon, she called Greenview Landscaping, feigning casualness. "Hello, wondering if Mark Harris is available. He was working on my garden." The woman on the other end hesitated. "Mark? I am sorry, but Mark is on leave. Well, I cannot discuss it, ma'am. Can I send someone else?" Catherine declined, heart pounding. What was Mark hiding or running from? That night, Catherine tossed and turned, her dreams haunted by shadows flitting through her yard, by the echo of Mark's voice, low, intimate, a whisper in her ear. She woke tangled in sheets, her body flushed, the memory of his touch alive in every nerve. She let her hand drift along her skin, recalling the heat of his kisses, the strength of his arms, the way her body had molded perfectly to his. Her mind spun fantasies. Mark returning, pulling her into the darkness of the garden, lifting her gently onto the cool grass, his lips tasting her in the moonlight. Desire pulsed through her, sweet and dangerous. The next morning, Catherine stepped into her backyard with renewed purpose. She moved among the flowers Mark had planted, searching for clues. Near the shed, she found something new, a folded note wedged into the doorframe, just out of sight. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. The handwriting was hurried but familiar. "Catherine, I'm sorry for leaving. I did not want you involved in my mess. Please be careful who you trust. I will come back when I can explain everything." A wave of conflicting emotions crashed over her. Relief that Mark had not simply disappeared, fear at his warning, and a sharp spike of curiosity. What could be so secret that he would run away rather than talk? The garden, once her sanctuary, now felt alive with secrets. She noticed small things she never had before. A broken twig, a boot print in the mud, petals crushed underfoot. The feeling of being watched had not faded. If anything, it grew sharper, as if someone's eyes were always on her. Ashley stopped by that afternoon, her platinum hair tucked under a pink baseball cap, a fitted t-shirt hugging her slim frame, high-waisted shorts showing off her shapely legs. Catherine confessed everything. The note, the bracelet, her suspicions. Ashley listened, concern wrinkling her brow. "Kath, this is getting weird. I mean, what if Mark is in some kind of trouble? Or what if he is not who you think he is?" "I keep asking myself the same thing," Catherine admitted. "But I cannot believe he would hurt anyone. Not after the way he looked at me, the way he made me feel." She blushed, remembering their closeness, the heat of his hands, the longing he awoke in her. Ashley squeezed her hand. "Just promise me you will be careful. And if you see anything strange, call me, all right?" That evening, Catherine walked the garden alone, letting the dusk wrap around her. The bracelet on her wrist glinted in the half-light. As she passed the roses, a sudden chill crept down her spine. She spun around, Sure, she had heard footsteps, but no one was there. She hurried back inside, locking the doors behind her. Her heart thudded in her chest. Was she imagining things? Or was the garden truly no longer her own? Later, wrapped in a silky robe, Catherine lay on her bed, the moonlight painting silver across her bare legs. Her thoughts returned to Mark, to the mystery of his disappearance, the taste of his lips, the raw need he awakened inside her. Her hands slid down her body, caressing the curve of her hips, the swell of her breasts under her thin lace bralette. She imagined Mark's hands replacing hers, strong and assured, exploring every inch of her. Her breath quickened, her body arching into the imagined touch, every nerve alive with want and fear. The pleasure was tangled with longing, with unanswered questions. She came undone, quietly, the mystery only deepening her need. The next morning, something even stranger occurred. Several flowers Mark had planted, her favorites, pale pink peonies, had vanished overnight. In their place was a small mound of fresh earth, as if someone had dug them up deliberately. On the mound, single note, short and chilling. Not everything beautiful can be trusted. Catherine's blood ran cold. Was this a warning? A threat? Or just a cruel prank? She called Ashley, voice shaking. I do not know what is happening. Someone is in my garden, watching me, leaving notes, taking the flowers. Ashley promised to come that evening, and Catherine felt a flicker of comfort. But as she hung up, she realized the truth. She could not trust anyone, not even her own senses. The garden, once her safe place, was now a puzzle, each piece more unsettling than the last. The day passed in a haze of nervous glances, half-started tasks, and the ache of missing Mark. As night fell, Catherine drew her curtains tight, clutching the mysterious bracelet to her chest. The garden had bloomed with more than flowers. It had awakened secrets, desire, and danger. And as Catherine drifted into uneasy sleep, she knew the real mystery was just beginning. The morning brought no clarity, only deeper confusion. Catherine felt as if she stood in the center of a storm, her once quiet life spinning out of her control. She dressed with extra care, choosing a light green blouse that set off the hazel in her eyes and a cream skirt that brushed softly against her legs. Her lingerie, powder blue with delicate lace, hugged her figure, her third-sized breasts filling the cups perfectly, her hips and shapely rear accentuated by the cut. Yet, no matter how she dressed, the anxious flutter in her chest would not fade. By noon, Ashley arrived, concern etched on her delicate features. "Did anything else happen?" she asked, as she set her purse on the kitchen table. Her form-fitted pink tank and crisp white shorts echoing her usual playful style. Catherine shook her head, offering coffee. "No new notes, but I feel on edge, like the garden is waiting for something. Like I am waiting for something." Ashley peered through the window, scanning the yard. "You should not be alone, Kath. Not until you know what is going on." She hesitated, then added, "I heard from Jane that Mark was seen in town, arguing with someone near the old hardware store. People are saying he might be in trouble." Catherine's pulse quickened. "He left me a note, Ash. He said he would explain everything. Ashley frowned. You trust him? I want to, Catherine whispered, voice trembling. But what if I am wrong? What if I am only seeing what I want to see? Before Ashley could answer, there was a knock at the door. Catherine's heart skipped. She moved to answer, breath caught in her throat. When she opened the door, she found Mark, hair tousled, jeans and t-shirt dusty, but eyes burning with urgency. Catherine, he said quietly, can we talk? She nodded, stepping aside. Ashley hovered nearby, arms crossed protectively. Mark glanced at her, then focused on Catherine. I'm sorry for leaving like that. I did not want you to get hurt, he began, voice strained. There are things about my past, things I never wanted to bring here. Ashley interrupted, her tone sharp. Are you the one who left the notes? Who took the flowers? Or is there someone else involved? Mark shook his head. It was not me. But someone wants you to think I am dangerous. Someone who does not want me here. Catherine's confusion deepened. Who? Mark hesitated, glancing at Ashley as if weighing how much to reveal. It is complicated. I used to work for a different landscaping company, a competitor. We parted badly. I think someone is trying to make trouble for me. And now, for you too. Ashley's eyes narrowed. That sounds convenient. How do we know you are telling the truth? Catherine's mind spun. She wanted to believe Mark, wanted more than anything, to trust the connection they shared, but fear clung to her, twisting every thought. Mark reached for Catherine's hand, his fingers warm and trembling. I would never hurt you, Catherine. You have to believe that. The tension snapped. Catherine stepped into Mark's arms, seeking comfort. But the embrace quickly turned heated. Their lips met, fierce and hungry. The longing of days apart crashing over them. Mark's hand slid down her waist, pulling her closer. Her soft curves pressed tightly to his body. Catherine's hands explored his chest, feeling his rapid heartbeat, the desperation in his touch. Their kiss deepened, and Catherine gasped as Mark's lips traced her neck, his fingers tangling in her hair. For a moment, all fear melted away, replaced by raw electric desire. She clung to him, needing his strength, his reassurance, even as the world spun around them. Ashley cleared her throat, breaking the spell. Maybe you two should have this conversation in private, she said, her tone half joking, but edged with worry. Catherine stepped back, cheeks flushed. I'm sorry, Ash. Ashley sighed. I just want you to be safe, Kath. Call me if you need anything, okay? She left reluctantly, shooting Mark a final warning look. Alone in the kitchen, Catherine and Mark sat at the table. The air was thick with words left unspoken. Why did you really leave? Catherine pressed, her voice trembling. Was it just about your old job or something more? Mark hesitated, then looked her in the eyes. I was accused of something I did not do, a theft at my last company. I left before things got worse. I thought I could start fresh here, but someone must have followed me. That bracelet, the missing flowers. None of it was me, but someone wants you to believe otherwise. Catherine struggled to process it all. Why did you not tell me sooner? I did not want you to get dragged into it, Mark replied, pain etched on his face. But when I saw how scared you were, I could not stay away. Catherine reached for his hand again. Holding on tightly, she leaned in, her lips brushing his in a softer, lingering kiss. Mark pulled her close, their bodies fitting together naturally. Her breasts pressed to his chest, her legs tangled with his under the table. The kiss deepened, slower, gentler, full of promise. For a few precious moments, nothing else mattered. But reality crashed back as the doorbell rang again. This time, it was Mrs. Peters, her expression stern. "I am sorry to interrupt, but there has been another incident. Someone broke into my backyard last night. You should be careful, Catherine." Her gaze flicked between Catherine and Mark, suspicion evident. After Mrs. Peters left, Mark stood abruptly. "I cannot put you in danger," he said, voice hoarse. "Maybe I should leave. For good this time." "No," Catherine said, tears springing to her eyes. "Please, I'm not afraid. Not if we face this together." For a long moment, neither spoke. The garden outside was silent, the mystery unsolved. But a decision had been made. Catherine was no longer content to be a bystander in her own story. She would fight for truth, for her garden, and for the wild, forbidden hope that had taken root in her heart. The tension in the Lawson home was nearly unbearable. Catherine hardly slept, pacing her bedroom in her soft blue nightdress, the mysterious bracelet clutched in her palm. Each night, she checked the locks twice. But despite the fear, a new resolve had settled in her. She would not let uncertainty control her life, nor let Mark go without knowing the whole truth. The next morning dawned warm and bright, sunbeams slipping through gauzy curtains and painting gentle gold across Catherine's body as she dressed. She chose a sleeveless white dress that flowed over her toned figure, her hair loose and gleaming. The softest lavender lace lingerie hugged her body beneath. Her third-sized breasts, cradled in smooth fabric, her hips and rear curving with every movement. She looked in the mirror and, despite the shadows under her eyes, felt ready for answers. Mark arrived early, his jaw set, his eyes tired but determined. He wore a clean-fitted t-shirt that showed his strong arms, dark jeans hugging his athletic build. "We need to talk," he said quietly. They sat in the kitchen, sunlight warming the space, the garden visible just outside. "I know you deserve the truth," Mark began, hands trembling as he reached for hers. "I lied about my past. I was accused of theft at my old job, but I did not do it. The man who really did it, my old boss, set me up when he realized I was going to expose him. I tried to disappear, to start again, but he found out where I went. That is who has been sending those notes, who wants to scare you. He wants to ruin my new life." Catherine's heart pounded. "The bracelet?" Mark nodded. "It is my mother's. I always carried it with me for luck. He must have taken it when he followed me here, then planted it by your fence to make it look like I was the one sneaking around." Catherine looked down at her hands, anger and relief warring inside her. "Why did you not trust me to help?" "I was ashamed," Mark whispered. But I realize now you deserve honesty. I want you to know me. All of me." Without thinking, Catherine reached for him, her arms circling his neck, pulling him close. Their lips met in a kiss, soft and deep, forgiveness and longing woven together. Mark's hands traced the line of her spine, her curves fitting perfectly to his body. The kiss grew fiercer, their bodies pressing together as if to erase all distance. Catherine felt herself melt into him, his scent, his touch, his need for her echoing her own. They moved together to the bedroom, where Mark's hands reverently undressed her, her dress slipping from her shoulders, pooling at her feet. He traced the lines of her body with his lips, her breasts, her hips, the soft swell of her thighs. She surrendered to him, their bodies joining in a dance of trust and passion. Every kiss a promise that the past could no longer touch them. Their pleasure rose slowly, sweetly, until they both trembled, breathless and fulfilled, the world outside forgotten. Afterward, they lay entwined on crisp sheets, sunlight tangled in Catherine's hair. For the first time, peace returned to her chest. The calm was interrupted by a sudden commotion outside. A voice raised in anger, the sound of something falling. Catherine shot up, pulling on her robe, and Mark hurried after her. In the garden, Mrs. Peters stood by the fence, yelling at a man Catherine had never seen before. Tall, with sharp features and a sneer on his lips. "That is him," Mark whispered. "My old boss." Mrs. Peters waved her phone. "I called the police. He was lurking by your shed, Catherine." The man's composure cracked. He tried to run, but Mark blocked his path. Within moments, the police arrived, quickly handcuffing the man and taking statements from everyone. Mrs. Peters turned to Catherine, her stern face softening. "I always thought something strange was happening, but I never imagined. I'm sorry I doubted you and Mark. Thank you for watching out for me," Catherine said, genuine gratitude in her voice. When the police left, Catherine and Mark walked together through the garden, the air fresh and clear. The fear that had hung over her home finally dissolved. That evening, as the sun slipped below the trees, Catherine and Mark worked side by side, planting new flowers to replace those that had been taken. Laughter filled the air, gentle, hopeful, honest. Ashley stopped by, her hair loose, her face bright with relief. "I heard what happened," she grinned, hugging Catherine. "I'm so glad you are safe, and you—" She looked at Mark. "Take care of her, all right?" Mark smiled, squeezing Catherine's hand. "I promise." As night fell, Mark brought out a small wrapped box. "For you," he said, shy for the first time. Inside was a delicate necklace with a tiny golden flower. "For your new garden," he said, his eyes shining, "and for everything we have been through." Catherine slipped it around her neck, feeling its weight, a symbol of survival, trust, and a new beginning. Later, as Catherine stood at the window in her pale silk slip, watching Mark finish watering the roses, she felt more alive than she ever had. Desire curled in her again, but now it was safe, joyful, unburdened by fear. She let herself imagine 100 new moments, sun-drenched mornings, lazy afternoons in the grass, kisses among the blooms. The garden had given her more than beauty. It had given her a second chance. The next day, her husband returned from his trip, surprised by the changes, both in the garden and in Catherine. But he sensed, too, that she was happier, more complete, and said nothing as Mark continued his work. Now a part of her world in a way no one could deny. As spring gave way to summer, the garden flourished like never before. And so did Catherine. Sometimes she would catch Mark's eye across a row of bright tulips, and they would share a secret smile, a silent promise that life could begin again, that happiness could bloom in the most unexpected places. And as the days grew long and golden, Catherine knew that what had started as a simple wish for flowers had grown into something far more beautiful. A story of risk, longing, revelation, and love that would color her world for seasons to come.